Just call me. Get it done.
Included somewhere into the Arklamis, that's where we're going to be on the air. And I can already see a well-defined couplet as of this point. What's a velocity couplet, you're probably wondering. If you're seeing the reds and the greens that I'm circling right here, that's going to represent the rotation, that potential rotation with a possible tornado. Now this system, over the last hour or so, we've been monitoring it as it's been well southwest of our area. It's continued to strengthen and weaken, and so we're going to have to keep a very watchful eye on it, so it wouldn't be too surprising to see this circulation right here start to weaken again and then maybe strengthen as well. Obviously the heavy rainfall, frequent lightning that you see across the screen as of this point as well. And again, for those folks not familiar, what happens is the radar just to the northwest of this storm system is starting to read the winds and the wind direction with this storm. And so what the red colors are indicating is actually winds moving away from the radar. The greens are going to be winds moving towards the radar, and so you can almost get a good idea of that rotation that's starting to get set up as of this point. And as mentioned, as long as it's still here, as long as that rotation is still there, there's likely some type of a presence or consideration of this potentially being a tornado. Now this is the only warning that we've seen so far today. Earlier this afternoon though, or I should say even early this morning, I believe it was right before noon, we did have a strong thunderstorm go through portions of Union Parish. It did cause some damage to about 10 to 12 homes there. As of now, we're not quite sure what caused that damage, but nonetheless we are on that. So if any folks are actually in tune in South Arkansas, we are looking into that as well. So this storm system is likely going to continue to push a lot of different storms to the northwest here, and as it gets a little bit closer towards the southwestern Bienville Parish line, we're likely going to take a little bit of a closer look to get some road names and things of that nature. I'm not going to do that just quite yet. I'm going to take another broad look here, just going to take a quick step back. And again, this other tornado warning just to the adjacent southwest of it, just south of Mansfield, has a lot of lightning with it as well. And clearly this rotation is still holding itself together with the newest scan that we have. I'm going to quickly switch back over towards regular reflectivity. It's likely something you're a little bit used to seeing or a little bit more familiar with as opposed to the reds and the greens. But overall, it's been a pretty messy system so far. If that rotation is setting up shop, you can see this little thunderstorm right here and that potential appendage right along the southwestern side. It's not always going to be clear-cut. It's not going to be textbook, so to speak, every single time. But nonetheless, a very messy situation. A lot of different heavy rainfall activity. Thunderstorm activity continues. But that potential tornado will be just southwest of the Martin area that we were discussing a second ago. We can take another broad look. Most of the activity as of this point has yet to enter the majority of the Arklamis. So you can clearly see South Arkansas is still situated fairly quietly, not even really seeing anything enter Columbia County as of this point either. And so this is really just the tip of the iceberg for activity that we are expecting. This nice little cluster of storms was expected right around this time and likely will continue until 7 p.m., 8 p.m., and then maybe we see this nice little cluster start to dissipate. That was part of the forecast. But even as this activity maybe potentially weakens and falls off, we are expecting more activity late tonight and even into early tomorrow morning. Now there's some questions as to how fast this cold front is going to continue to move, but if it slows down, it's going to have some type of lingering severe weather threat even for potentially late tomorrow afternoon for folks right along the Mississippi Valley. So it's a pretty interesting situation nonetheless. We do have another severe thunderstorm warning issued for portions of Bienville Parish as well. We're going to zoom in and see what we can see potentially with the rotation from our tornado warning in Bienville Parish until 4:15 p.m. But this severe thunderstorm warning goes until about 4:30, and it includes portions, the far northwestern portions of Wynn Parish. And I'm going to step off the screen, potentially see what some of the hazards are with this storm. And pretty typical, whenever we get a warning, something like that, we go check and see what some of the hazards are with this storm. So that severe thunderstorm warning has the potential for 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. There's a tornado possible with that severe thunderstorm warning, so there might be some rotation embedded in there that we might have to look at a little bit closely here in a second. And also the potential for up to 1 inch of hail with that storm as well. So the National Weather Service out of Shreveport has issued that severe thunderstorm warning. We're going to take a look at that rotation here in just a second. And for those folks wondering where Chief Meteorologist Jared Floyd is, he is on his way to the studio as we speak. And again, we're going to go look at this possible tornado. And I am noticing the circulation with our first storm continuing. I'm going to go ahead and circle the first one. You can see it just here and the second one is just to the southwest of Natchitoches Parish. Now, as of this point, the National Weather Service out of Shreveport has not been led to believe there's a possible tornado there just yet. They haven't issued a tornado warning, but they are monitoring that weak type of rotation. So nonetheless, we could see another another tornado warning get popped up here in the next 10-15 minutes or so. They're likely going to continue to monitor that. But again, we likely have two different systems that we're going to have to watch pretty closely. And again, folks, if you are anywhere within this tornado warning, I know that our coverage area here at the Fox 14 and NBC 10 studios really only includes the southwestern portions of Bienville. But nonetheless, if you are actually in Red River Parish, you need to make sure that you're in your safe place. You need to put as much distance in between you and the outside as possible. You need to be the interiormost portion of your home, away from outside walls, windows, or doors. That's going to be your safest place to be. And if you're in a mobile home, you need to have another plan to go somewhere else to a more stable structure. If you have some type of community structure in your downtown area, something preferably made of bricks, something of that sort, that's going to be your better bet as well, because we always suggest that if you are in a mobile home that you have an alternative plan. And if you're in this red flashing box and you're in a mobile home, you likely need to go ahead and get to your safe place and go ahead and find that and start acting your severe weather plan. As of now, still noticing that rotation holding itself together. Probably going to take another really close look. And then we're going to take a look at that severe thunderstorm warning here in just a second. It's just now to the northeast of Red Oak Road there, East Carroll Court, or Circuit, excuse me. It's moving a little bit further past. Plenty of lightning here with this storm. I'm actually going to turn off the lightning here. It's kind of obnoxious. But here's our potential tornado. Here's the circulation that we're monitoring. And some of these roads, it's just now southwest of Martin. So if you guys know any folks within Martin, you need to go ahead and call them, give them a call. It's always a good idea. Even if you think they're at work, something of the sort, this is going to take precedent over whatever else they're doing. You need to make sure that they get into their safe place. Just give them a heads up, hey, there's a tornado warning currently around your area. I'm worried about you. Just go ahead and get into your safe place. They're likely seeing some very heavy rainfall as of this point, but that's going to be that circulation. It's held itself together pretty well over the last hour or so. This storm really got going about an hour or so ago, I do believe. And at one point, it had several different tornado warnings just to the southwest of this area. So we're going to take a look at the other severe thunderstorm warning that's just to the southwest of here. This had a potential tornado. And again, that circulation not necessarily earth-shattering here. It's not super strong, but nonetheless, you can see the reds and the greens associated with some type of rotation. It could be elevated, meaning it's not actually reaching the ground. So typically speaking, whenever we say there's a surface-based rotation, that's going to have some type of tornado threat involved. Otherwise, and there we go. We do have another tornado warning issued. It's just to the west of Natchitoches and southwest of Kampti. So folks, if you're in either of these locations, you need to go ahead and get into your safe place. And again, this is going to be for our area here in the ArkLaMiss, the southwestern portions of Bienville Parish, far northwestern wind. Both of these circulations that we're associating with the potential, with the possibility of producing a tornado is not yet into our area. But nonetheless, if you folks notice any type of, if this is familiar to you in any way, shape, or form, you need to go ahead and get into your safe place. Now, as of now, not really noticing any other circulations that we're worried about just yet, but nonetheless, this is going to take a good period of time. And so I just want to go ahead and break down what we're expecting through the rest of this evening. Just going to kind of leave this up here for y'all. And again, so late tonight, there's a cold front moving through the area. We're seeing dew points in the mid-60s, so plenty of moisture for these thunderstorms to utilize to give us some heavy rainfall. There's also an aerial flood watch into effect for portions of the ArkLaMiss until about 6 a.m. tomorrow for the western half, and for the eastern half of the ArkLaMiss, where there's actually an aerial flood watch until 12 noon tomorrow. So very heavy rainfall is expected. We have plenty of moisture to use, and with temperatures likely in the 70s at this hour, that's what's really allowing to fuel some of these thunderstorms as well. We do have a fairly favorable environment for some of the winds, and that's how tornadoes can even get going in the first place, is if you have some favorable wind profiles, because remember, the atmosphere is like a layered cake, so within that layer, it can produce tornadoes potentially based on how those winds look, and that's what we're seeing as of now. With some more of the recent updates, remember the radar's constantly scanning, so every minute or so we do get an updated image. So if you're noticing some differences in the radar from time to time, it is actively updating. We're going to check in on the potential tornado around the Martin region. That circulation still upholding itself as of this point. That could be Ashland Road just to the southeast of there, just west of the Martin area. And it's traveling a little bit further close to this box. I wouldn't be too surprised to see another tornado warning potentially if they continue it, if the circulation holds itself together a little bit further west. So it's pretty typical for some erratic motions. It's not always going to follow a straight line path. And that's why tornado warnings are so large to begin with, is because they're very erratic moving and they only really impact a small area. So remember that as well. Even if you're in a tornado warning, it's not necessarily doom and gloom. It's just making sure you have an action plan and you're getting there. So a little bit of good news potentially. That rotation does look to have weakened, although rather slightly. But I did mention earlier, even though it could potentially weaken, it could strengthen yet again back up. So that's something that we're going to monitor. It's obviously not going to be a one and done phase here. We're going to move down to the other tornado warning. And don't get too bothered by the reds and the greens that you're seeing here. This is not as tight of a couplet. That could be potentially something that we're looking at there. But as of now, that could just potentially be something else. I do believe the possible tornado with this tornado warning is further to the southwest there. But just in case, and again, that circulation is also just going to be outside of our area. And we've been looking at velocity for quite some time, so back over to the regular reflectivity. Again, something that you're used to. And yes, that potential tornado, you can kind of see here, this is the majority of the heavy rainfall. That potential tornado is going to be on the south side of some of the heavy rainfall that you see as of this point. And the good news is with our other storm, you can even see some of the rainfall starting to follow off. This little dot right here is likely where that remnant rotation is, but the good news is there's really not much structure to follow with this storm at this point as well. And that's very, very important. When discussing severe thunderstorms, things like that, it's not just what you see on the radar in terms of the coloring, it's going to be the overall shape of things, because the structure of a storm can really indicate its potential, how strong it is, things of that sort. And so it's not too surprising here. It wouldn't be surprising if this tornado warning got canceled once upon a time, because again, the structure of that storm is absolutely just falling apart, I would say, and the majority of the focus is likely going to be on this other storm because it looks obviously a lot stronger as of now. I'm going to head over to what's called storm relative velocity. It's pretty similar to regular velocity, but it just takes into account the storm motion as well. And even here, still noticing some type of weak rotation. Again, this rotation has not yet entered the Bienville Parish area just to the southwest. We're obviously giving a lot of lead time for folks that are northeast of this tornado warning. So that's what we're trying to do. Just make sure we get as much information to as many people as possible in a quick and timely fashion. But the other rotation is holding itself a little bit stronger as of this point, and this is going to be just northwest of the Natchitoches area. Some very heavy rainfall likely continuing. Head back over to reflectivity here, and that possible tornado now just to the northwest of Natchitoches. I'm going to leave this up here on the screen. I'm going to go check my computer over at the National Weather Service chat, see what else is going on as of this point. And again, the good news is with that first tornado warning that was included for far southwestern Bienville Parish does look to be dissipating a little bit as of this point. And I'm just going to leave that tornado warning up on the screen there, folks. And yes, for our new tornado warning, that's included for Bienville, Natchitoches, Red River Parish. A severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Coushatta, or 25 miles east of Mansfield, moving northeast at 35 miles per hour. And that storm does look like it's going to take precedent over the previous tornado warning. And as previously mentioned, depending on how these storms circulate, they could easily spin back up or spin back down rather quickly. And what we're looking at now is this storm just here, just to the southwest of Bienville and Wynn Parish. It's currently located in Natchitoches Parish, right around the Natchitoches region. And Chief Meteorologist Jared Floyd just now walking into the studio, getting mic'd up, likely joining us here in just a second. And we're going to head back over towards the reflectivity, or the velocity, see if we can see that couplet yet again. I'm going to get a nice zoom in for you. And again, it's just to the north of Natchitoches, the city of Natchitoches. And so Grand Encore, or Accor, Hyams, near Fairview Acres, that possible tornado, you're seeing that rotation. And for folks not familiar with what we're looking at right now, the reds and the greens are what we're really looking at. That's going to be the telltale sign of some type of rotation ongoing. The greens are going to be winds moving towards the radar. The reds are winds moving away from the radar. And so that's where that possible circulation lies. You can almost get a good picture of how things are starting to shape up. And this tornado warning will continue until 4:30 p.m. And so we have 2 different active tornado warnings, unless the other one was previously canceled. It was. So for folks that were with us at the start of the coverage, the first tornado warning that was issued for Bienville Parish is no longer there. It was canceled. It was at first expected to go until right about the 4:15 p.m. time frame. Thankfully, that circulation dissipated. We're going to have to keep an eye on it just in case it decides to spin back up again. We've been talking about that over the last couple of minutes, but the next area of concern is going to be the other tornado warning that includes Natchitoches Parish and far northwestern wind and far southern Bienville Parish. So we have plenty of lead time as of this point. That potential rotation, that possible tornado is well to the southwest of those areas, but nonetheless, if you find yourself in that red flashing box, maybe you're not, maybe you know somebody that is, you need to go ahead and at least send them a message, ask them nicely, hey, you need to get into your safe place, put as much distance in between you and the outside as possible. And through the rest of the evening, we're going to have to keep a very watchful eye on this the isolated storms as well as clusters. I know we've been looking at the velocity for quite some time here. Going to head back over towards reflectivity. And this storm overall, as I was mentioning, has a lot better of a structure than this other storm, so it's not too surprising to see that the other one dissipated, but nonetheless, very heavy rainfall is likely starting to pick up for folks in southern Bienville Parish, so don't get too worried just yet, folks. It's just some of the heavy rainfall likely starting to pick up. Nonetheless, if you're within that red flashing box, you need to go into your safe place. And just for the record, a lot of people are watching the live stream potentially on Facebook and things of that nature, and they're watching on a mobile device, so they usually take those mobile devices with them to your safe place. That's a good idea. But if you're watching on a TV, make sure the volume is as loud as possible, and just regardless of what's ongoing on the TV, just head to your safe place if you're within this red flashing box. So we do have another severe thunderstorm warning issued for the Red River Parish region. It does not look to include Bienville as of this point. Going to have to keep a watchful eye on that. That's likely going to be for damaging wind gusts. Maybe there's some type of rotation embedded in there. Not quite sure as of now. And before we dive into this activity yet again, just want to take another look. Likely some residual rainfall around the I-20 region, so if you're getting some sprinkles, maybe some light to moderate rainfall, not to be worried there. There is some heavier downpours to be had just to the west of Union County. And I did mention earlier, we did get some reports of damage to about 10 to 12 homes in the Union County area. That was early this morning, actually before the noon time frame. And so we're actually going to go ahead and monitor that and see how that turns out over the next couple of days. Not quite sure what caused some of that damage as of this point, but we were watching a rather strong thunderstorm move through that area. But we're going to get another close look here back towards the Natchitoches region.
And Walker, with that, I appreciate you getting on the air and giving a lot of advance notice with these 2 severe thunderstorm capable of producing tornadoes. The first, again, if you're just joining programming or just joining us, we had that 1 tornado warning that was for Bienville Parish. That one has been canceled, but now we have the new tornado warning, which should be entering far western sections of the Arklamas, or at least kind of threatening western sections of the Arklamas, I'd say in the next half hour. And just a programming note on that note, we're hitting the top of the hour on both of our stations, and as Walker kind of points out, that circulation kind of south of the Campti areas and some of the in northwest of Clarence, which is one of those